Hi, I'm Greg Hunter, and this is the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, January 20th, 2012. The Coastal Concordia cruise ship laying on its side. For the mainstream media, that video was too juicy and too awesome to pass up. Now, I know there was a loss of life. About 11 people were killed. Some 21 more are still missing. But this really doesn't affect the lives of most Americans. We've had days in Iraq and Afghanistan where we've lost 20 service people, and they don't go wall-to-wall coverage with that. This Coastal Concordia news story ended up eating up time and resources, and everybody was covering it, and, a lot of big stories didn't get coverage because of this. And one of them is not Newt Gingrich's ex-wife of 14 years ago making tawdry charges against, presidential candidate Newt Gingrich. I mean, ABC News is doing that story. We've got Europe in trouble, which could cause a meltdown over there and over here. We've got, a possibility of war with Iran, and also all kinds of other hostilities in the Middle East, for example, Syria. And that's what they spent their time and money investigating, Newt Gingrich's ex-wife of 14 years ago. One word comes to mind: irrelevant. And I'm with Newt on this. Very unfair. A story that should have gotten a lot more coverage is the internet privacy legislation in both the House and a separate one in the Senate. And this is catching a lot of heat on the internet now. Some people say, listen, this is really not about privacy as much as it's about the censorship of the internet. And you know what? I'm with that camp. I think it's a bill that could and probably will censor the internet. And there was a big protest this week. Thousands of sites were protesting, and folks in Congress are feeling the heat. And it just may be enough to kill or actually drastically change this type of legislation. Next up, Iran. I wrote a piece earlier in the week that said it's not a matter of when, or if, it's a matter of when. That we will go to war with Iran. And I think we're on a course with all the things going on. We have a couple of aircraft carriers over there. We've had all these allegations by the Iranians of closing the Straits of Hormuz if their sanctions increase because of their nuclear program, which the Iranians say is for the peaceful production of energy. Other people say no, they're trying to build a nuke. Now, even Leon Panetta, the defense secretary, says no, they don't have a nuke, but we're worried about their nuclear capabilities. They don't have a nuclear weapon, according to the defense secretary. And the head of the Joint Chiefs, the new one, General Dempsey, was over in Israel last week. The signs are all there. And for the people who say, yeah, we should go ahead and do it, I say, listen, I think we should tell the people in America that this is going to be costly and it's going to be bloody. For one thing, they're talking about $200 a barrel oil if this takes place. And you can just pretty much double what you're paying at the pump right now for gasoline. If gasoline in your area is $3.50 or $4 a gallon, it'll be $7 or $8 a gallon. Now, I ask you, how long can the fragile U.S. economy take a doubling in energy costs? How long do you think the fragile European economy could take the doubling of its energy costs? How long do you think it will be for Greece and Italy and Spain and Portugal and Ireland, the pigs country, the ones with all this sovereign debt and all these problems, and their banks that have holding this debt? How long do you think it would take before they just say, that's it, we'll default? And what about Iran? Everybody thinks it's going to be, bloodless. It'll be, no problem. The Russians won't get involved. The Chinese won't get involved. How do you know they haven't sold them all kinds of technology that could damage and destroy U.S. ships? The Russians reportedly developed a torpedo that travels as fast or faster than the speed of sound underwater. A sonar wouldn't be much good, would it? The Chinese and Russians also have carrier-destroying type missiles. Now, I'm not saying the U.S. can't defeat Iran's military. It can. But it's not going to be bloodless, and it certainly won't be cost-free. And I think everybody should know that before that happens. So everybody's on the right page if it happens. I'm not for it, and I'm not against it. I'm not a proponent for attacking Iran. I am a proponent for telling everybody what the real outcome could be if this happens, and it would be devastating. Finally, Ron Paul has introduced legislation to gut the portion of the NDAA, that's the National Defense Authorization Act, the indefinite detention provisions. It's in a part of the bill, 1021 is the section of the bill, that allows for the indefinite detention of Americans without charge, without due process, without trial. It's a very anti-constitutional, this bill. There was a time where the mainstream media was saying, well, we're not sure it really allows the indefinite detention of Americans. Well, it does, and President Obama admitted so in his signing ceremony and said he wouldn't detain Americans. But it does. So I ask you, Ron Paul is putting this legislation up. It is certainly unconstitutional. It can detain Americans. Why is not the mainstream media covering this? Why not? I know why Fox isn't covering it, because it's any airplay to Ron Paul, and that's not their guy. Even though their guy, Mitt Romney, said he's all for the NDAA, indefinite detention of Americans. And where is the mainstream media on this important issue? Oh, I guess they're covering that cruise ship that fell over on its side. Or maybe Newt Gingrich, whose wife made some tawdry allegations. You don't need to know anything about the indefinite detention of American citizens without trial. Finally, I got some emails from people, because I wrote a piece about Ron Paul running as a third party, and I think he could win as a third party. And we're a pretty long way away from the election. I think he could win. And the reason why I say that is because, listen, he would take votes from Republicans who don't think Romney is Republican enough, and he would take disgruntled Republicans if it was Newt or Santorum. I don't think it is. I think it would be Paul before those guys. He would take the 40% of the middle, who are the independent voters. He would take a pretty good chunk of that. And he would take part of Obama's base. I mean, listen, there's a lot of people on the left that have given Obama a lot of criticism over how he handled Wall Street. He said that they did, unethical things, but they didn't do anything illegal, which it's preposterous. He signed the indefinite detention bill. Even the ACLU says it's a stain on his presidency, and it guts the Bill of Rights. He would take some disgruntled Democrats. He would take a pretty good chunk of independents, and I think he would take a chunk of Republicans, and this is why Democrats and Republicans fear him. So I've had people send me emails saying, well, if Ron Paul does win in a third party, Obama could be president again. And you know what? Maybe. And I say to that, so what? Really? Do you really think there's any difference between Obama and Romney? Romney said he would sign he would have signed the NDAA too. He's for the indefinite detention of Americans. Do you think Romney was going to come down on Wall Street? Obama won't. We've had allegations of fraud by attorney generals, allegations of fraud by the big banks, by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Where is the Justice Department for Obama? Where is Mitt Romney on this issue? Now, it wouldn't be much difference, frankly. I just think, really, the two parties just take turns ripping off the country. It's sad to say. It's like WWE, fake fighting. And that's the way I see it. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com.